Hello and welcome back to Palaver, a BMX podcast with Chris Doyle. It's recently been brought to my attention that I might be saying Palaver wrong. Two guys from the UK hit me up and they said, Doyle, I really like the podcast, but I think you're saying Palaver wrong. And one guy told me this in person at the Battle of Hastings. He said, I really enjoy what you're doing, man. I'm into it, but it's pronounced Palaver. He really drew out that A. And if that's the way that it's pronounced, so be it. But I don't speak in a British accent, so maybe I just can't say it right. So for now, it's Palaver. And I'm sorry if that's wrong to you based on where you live. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry, whatever. Anyways, thank you for all the feedback on my last podcast, in which it was just me talking without a guest, without an interview. Got a lot of good feedback, which I didn't really expect. So I'm happy that everyone liked it. I'm happy that most people liked it. I'm sure there's people out there that thought it was lame. But again, sorry, not sorry. On this episode, I once again do not have a guest. There's no interview here. It's again just me talking and talking about things that I've thought about recently. I've been thinking about natural athleticism lately and the people that have it. You know, your friend that's good at everything and it just drives you nuts. I've been thinking about that a lot. And I've also been thinking, and I'm going to touch back on natural athleticism a little bit later in the podcast. I'm going to dance around a little bit, much like I do. And I was thinking the other day about when I turned professional, when I started riding professionally. And I thought about the attitude that a lot of adults had at that time when I was wanting to be a pro bike rider. Because when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, maybe even as old as 16, I started to notice in the magazines that people had sponsors. People were making money. I don't know if a lot of people were making a living, but people were making money. So it planted a seed in me where it was like, maybe I could do that. I'm pretty good. I thought I was good. And I started to tell people that. I started to tell my mom that. I told other people from my parents' generations, I'd like to be a pro bike rider. And you always got a weird look. You always got that's not a realistic thing type of vibe. And even though that was at the beginning of that whole, we have to protect a kid's self-esteem type of thing. You know, everyone gets a ribbon, everyone gets on base, everybody gets a trophy. It was the beginning of that. So if you were in your early teens and you told an adult, I want to be a professional basketball player, most adults would be like, you know what, believe in your dreams, try hard and focus on your goal, and you can do anything you set your mind to. I want to be a pro bike rider. I want to be a pro BMXer. And you get, yeah, I don't know about that. That was one of those things, most adults would just straight up come out and be honest with you. No, that's not a real thing. No one's going to pay you to ride a BMX bike. And I thought that's funny, how I actually remember talking to a friend about that, about how ridiculous our parents thought it was that we were so into riding little BMX bikes. But you can't blame that generation because it was so new. This is a new thing. I know, you think BMX has been around for a long time, but I mean, the late 70s weren't that long ago. It really wasn't. So, and people have been playing basketball and football way longer, and the more traditional sports. So that always kind of, I guess it bothered me a lot when I was young, but I get it now. I understand where my mom was coming from. I understand where my guidance counselor was coming from. I went to a college prep school in Raleigh, North Carolina, a private school where the whole goal of this high school is to send you on to college, sometimes a decent college. And most of my classmates did go on to decent colleges. And like a lot of my classmates didn't go on to like a trade school. They didn't jump right into the workforce. That wasn't something you heard about. And most of the people didn't even like go to like community college or anything. Like they went on to like real deal colleges. I forget what the percentage was, but it was like they had like a 90% rate of like getting their students into decent colleges. That's the high school that I went to. And I wanted to be a pro bike rider. And also, I know everyone's thinking the weatherman thing as well, but that didn't come until later. So I remember sitting, it was the beginning of my junior year, and I'm telling my guidance counselor about riding bikes. And I didn't even mention that I wanted to be pro yet, but I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to like do something like this and this, maybe even do something in the industry. And he's like, looks at me, he's like, hey, no one's going to pay you to ride a little bike. And again, I was mad then, but now I get it. And I was kind of like, and I'm like, I brought actual proof. I brought a magazine. Like, look at this bike this guy's riding. They're paying him. This shirt, the logo on his shirt, like they're paying him. Like, see this contest? These guys made money. And I mean, keep in mind, like it was contests where like first place was $300. As a 15, 16-year-old, that's a lot of money, but in the real world, it kind of isn't. So, I was mad then, but now I get it. And yeah, so it was actually later that year. It was my first pro contest, and I made finals. I made some money, and that was what kind of kick-started everything. But I did get accepted to a couple colleges, surprisingly, for how bad my grades were and how bad my SAT scores were. But what was I talking about? Oh, I was going into natural athleticism a little bit. And again, I'm going to touch on that later. But since I'm talking about high school, glory days, Polk High, 3 touchdowns, 1 game. I hope you guys get that reference. Anyways, I went to school with this kid who, natural athlete. He was like, and keep in mind, no one in my high school rode BMX. It was just me. All my other riding buddies went to different schools. So I'm the only bike rider in my school, but I had become really good friends with this kid who was like our star tennis player. His name was Casey Degnan. And we're still friends to this day. We still talk every once in a while. So Casey was our star tennis player, and he went to college. I don't know if he got a scholarship to play tennis, or I don't know if it was like a partial scholarship, but regardless, he played tennis in college. And he ended up having like a pretty gnarly elbow injury, in which he had to have a pretty serious surgery, which he thought was going to derail his tennis career. But he switched hands and learned how to play with his opposite hand. And he got so good playing with his opposite hand that he took his team, or he took his college the farthest that they'd ever gone in like the NCAA tournament or something like that. My facts might be a little bit off on that, but you kind of get the gist. He was just naturally gifted athlete. And Casey later went on to become a professional ultimate frisbee player. He got so good at playing ultimate frisbee, he turned it into a profession. And now I think he's like partial owner of like a ultimate frisbee club in North Carolina. Like, it's one thing when you tell someone that you're riding a BMX bike professionally seems ridiculous. Imagine being a professional ultimate frisbee player. Like, that's got to be, well, I don't know. People might relate to that more because everyone's throwing frisbee. Not everyone's jumped a BMX bike. So maybe it's less ridiculous to be an ultimate frisbee player than it is to be a professional BMX bike rider. But shout out to Casey Degnan for, taking that passion for playing frisbee and turning it into a career. That's awesome. Natural athleticism. Well, that sounds like, is that a song lyric? Take your passion and make it happen. Take your passion. That's right. It's I told you my musical taste was whack. That's from that Flashdance song, What a Feeling. Take your passion and make it happen. Oh, wow, that's funny. So today is May 10th, 2020. It's Mother's Day. So hopefully you're doing something nice for Mom today. Buying her some flowers, taking her out to eat, or whatever you guys like to do. Today is also one of my best friend's birthdays. It's one of my best friend's 40th birthdays. Mr. Ryan the Snake Barrett. The Snake, a.k.a. Barrett Snake Lizard Hips, a.k.a. Snakeskin Boots, a.k.a. Meathead, depending on how long you've known him, a.k.a. the Shovelhead, thanks to Ryan Popple, and a variety of other nicknames, I'm sure. But it's his birthday today. He's turning 40. And Ryan, if you're listening, hopefully you've had a good birthday. I miss you, buddy. Since it is Ryan's birthday, at the end of this podcast, when I'm done talking, I'm going to stitch on Ryan's video part that he did for Hoffman Bikes a couple years ago that was tucked away, hidden in one of their road trip DVDs. He filmed this part as part of like they called it extra credit because he got hurt on the trip and he missed a couple other trips. So this amazing part has been like kind of just tucked away in this relatively unpopular video, and I'm going to put it on the end of this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put it on the end when I'm done talking, and hopefully everyone can enjoy that and appreciate that because it's one of my favorite video parts, especially from Ryan. But I mean, Ryan's a pretty meticulous guy, so like every clip was like specially chosen and filmed. I filmed a couple of the clips very poorly. But yeah, you'll realize this dude kills it on everything. Park, dirt, street, everything. It's edited really well, and it's got a really cool song by Q and Not You. And you should look forward to that after I'm done talking about nothing. So as far as like content goes for BMX stuff, I've been really stoked on what Dave Frymouth is doing with the VHS BMX Instagram, where he takes a video from like the VHS era and he talks a little bit about that video. He puts up clips and he has someone that's involved in the video do like a little written intro for it. I did one for a video that me and my friends made back in the day called Stock, and I don't know, the content's really cool. He recently put up a bunch of stuff of Kurt Schmidt that will blow your mind if you want to go and watch that. Also, my buddy Dave Mavro has been killing it lately on social media, putting up a lot of contest footage from, Dave was at, the biggest contest in the last 20 years. He was filming for Fuel TV and probably a variety of other projects as well. And putting up stuff from like X Games, Dew Tours, Elevation, Backyard Jams. He's got all this like crisp, unseen footage. So go check him out on YouTube and on Instagram as well. What else? I was thinking about this the other day, and I tried to think about how I was going to talk about this. So I might not make much sense here, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Remember how I was saying earlier when I was talking about me wanting to be a pro bike rider, or really just wanting to be involved? I wanted to be at the contest. I wanted to be in props. I wanted something from BMX. Now, I realize that BMX doesn't owe you shit. Doesn't owe anybody anything. And nobody owes you anything. But I wanted to be a pro bike rider, and I wanted to be involved. And does anyone else remember a time in BMX when that was like frowned upon? Like if you had told somebody like, yeah, I really want to quote unquote make it in BMX, then you kind of got hated on by the hardcores. You're kind of like ridiculed because it seemed, and I don't know if this still goes on, but if your intentions for riding were anything but quote unquote, I'm just having fun. All I care about is fun and just having fun. Unless you said that, you were a dick. And again, I might just be, I've built this up in my mind, but I remember being asked questions, both like, being interviewed and like at a contest or something. Someone asks you, how's the weekend going? How's the course? And having like a terrible weekend and still saying like, oh, I'm just having fun, even though I wasn't really having fun. So I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And yeah, we all got into riding because it was fun. We're kids and we enjoyed it. We were having fun with our friends, causing trouble and doing whatever you're doing, jumping your bike. But as I stuck with riding more and more as I progressed, I think so did my mentality with why I was doing what I was doing. It's because I fell in love with it. I became passionate about it. And when you love something, when you're passionate about it, you will do a lot of things that aren't fun to do this thing that you love. You'll go through the anger and the frustration and the pain to do this thing that you love, just because our hearts are all in it. But even with all that, you would still say like, oh, I'm just having fun, just having fun. And it came to be known as what I started to call the fun facade, where like if you didn't say, or if your intentions were anything but just having fun, and then like I said, you were a dick. And I've seen other people do this. I was at a big high-profile contest, and there was a big high-profile rider that's like throwing, this is not that long ago either, he's like throwing his bike and he's screaming obscenities and he's just having the worst day. Like, he was having zero fun. He was having less fun than anybody there. And they put a camera in his face. And like, oh, so how do you feel about the course? How do you feel about this? Or how do you feel about that? And he's just like, oh, I'm just out here having fun. I'm just having fun. It's like, dude, we're not buying it. You're transparent. Like, we can see right through it. Like, you're pissed. You want to be here to do well, and things aren't going right. So I always wondered if other people notice that as well. Because I'm guilty of doing the same stuff, like I said. So I'm not trying to sound like a hypocrite. But did anyone see the Beastie Boys documentary when they call the one dude gets called out in an interview for being a hypocrite, and he straight up says to the guy, he's like, I'd rather be a hypocrite than be the same guy forever. I was like, damn, that's a good quote. Anyways, so yeah, I'd always wondered, like, hiding behind that fun facade, because we were like afraid to say what our actual intentions were, because anything other than just for fun was not cool. I remember being at a contest, and like I said, I got asked all these questions, and just hiding behind that facade, when really I should have just said, well, I'm not having a good ride here today, and I really want to do well so I can keep my sponsors happy. They spent a lot of money flying me to the other side of the world here, and I really feel like I'm not living up to expectations. So no, not having fun here. That's what you should say, but you don't say stuff like that. Now, I remember, you got to respect dudes like Miron and Mira and like even Nyquist, because they never hid behind that. You never heard them like have to say they were just having fun. I remember an interview one time with Jay Miron where he'd won this big B3 contest, and they're interviewing him after the contest. And Mira wasn't there, and Nyquist wasn't there, and a couple of the other heavy hitters were not there. And they asked Miron if he's excited about the win. He's like, no, I'm not excited about this, because the other guys weren't here, and it just kind of opened the door for me to win. And I'd much rather just get a win when those guys are here, so I can, because those are my competition. So it was weird to say, like, he just probably made a mountain of money, all the sponsor time on TV, and he's like, I'm not happy about this. And imagine if you had said to Miron after that interview, imagine if you went up to him and you were like, hey, Jay, as long as you were having fun, dude, Miron would have kicked you right in your pussy. No doubt. I was trying to film a video part a couple years ago. I was filming for a kink video, and I was trying to get this clip at my local park where I was tail whipping this pocket. And I wanted the clip really bad. I wanted to have a good video part. And I was putting myself through the ringer for this video part, and I was, stressing myself out a lot. And I was trying to get this clip, and I kept doing the pocket air and I wasn't doing the tail up, Like, and there's nothing more frustrating than when like you can't even get yourself to try the trick and you're just upset with yourself. And then I gave it a couple half-hearted attempts, and that sucks too. And I remember I pop out on the deck, I'm tired and I'm upset. I'm ready to just throw my bike. And this dude comes up to me, a guy that I know, a guy that I like, so I don't hate him for this, but guy comes up to me and goes, so what are you trying? I explain it to him, and I explain everything, and he looks at me and he goes, well, as long as you're having fun. I was like, I'm having fun, yeah, because I felt like I had to say that, right, so that he wouldn't think poorly of me. And then I gave it a few more tries, and then I snapped my ankle in half. So that sucked. I had to spend about 8 weeks in a cast, so that wasn't cool. But do you get what I'm saying, though? You understand what I'm talking about? Maybe not. Maybe I need to go back and just delete this whole thing. I don't know. But to me, it kind of makes sense. Nyquist was another guy. Nyquist never hid behind that shit. And Nyquist is one of the most fun people to be around ever. Whether you're riding, whether you're out to dinner, whether you're just like chilling, Nyquist is a fun guy to be around. But when it came time to like ride a contest, like there was no one more serious than Nyquist, and you respected him for it, and that's why he did so good. You guys have all probably seen him on like ESPN, like, you know, he's in 8th place, needs a 98.99 to win the contest. He's the last rider to drop in the finals. And you just see the look on his face. He's just stoic and he's focused, and it's like true athleticism. And then he drops in and like lights the place on fire, wins the contest. And then, of course, he would go out and buy everyone dinner, and everyone would have a good time. So shout out to Nyquist. But yeah, he was another guy that he never had to hide behind like, oh, just having fun. It's like, no, dude, like I'm here to actually do something. So again, I don't know if I'm making any sense. But one time we were at X Games, and while I'm talking about Nyquist, I was on the roll-in. And my run was coming up, and I'm standing there, and we were really close to the crowd because they always put the roll-ins like up in the stands kind of. And these dudes are kind of like heckling me. Not so much heckling. They were nice. They were just like trying to get my attention. And they're like, Doyle, yeah, Doyle, do a double truck driver, and just like going on. And I'm just kind of waving and smiling and trying to be cool, but I'm super nervous about my next run. And these guys are kind of like heckling me. And then like Nyquist kind of rolls up in between me and where these fans are standing and heckling. And he goes, hey guys, let them focus. And then the guys went back to their seats, and Nyquist kind of like just gave me a nod. He's like, all right. And I'm like, damn, all right. So yeah, shout out to Nyquist. When I was young and I was starting to travel a lot, when I was like, I think I was around 17. Me and Todd Wakowiak traveled a lot together, and we didn't make a lot of money at all. My first year on DK, I was making, I think, $200 a month. And Todd, I think, was making a little bit more. But regardless, we were hanging out with Nyquist at his hotel, and me and Todd, for some reason, and don't judge us, we were young, but we asked Nyquist, we're like, how much money do you make? We had the gall, the wherewithal to just straight up ask Nyquist, hey, how much money do you make? And Nyquist was like, oh, okay. He was like going to indulge us. He was going to let us know. So he's like, he gets out a piece of paper and a pen, and he starts writing things down. And we're like, what's he writing down? How does he not know? And he's just like, just writing down numbers. And then he gets done with it after like 5 minutes. He looks at the piece of paper and he crumbles it up. He's like, I can't tell you guys. And we're like, oh, come on, man. We're kids. We're 17 years old. And he's like, I can't tell you. And we're like, okay. So I always thought that was funny. I always think about that. So Nyquist, great dude. Love the guy. Dude, did you guys see that clip of Corey Nastasio that he recently put up on Instagram? He's a little ass kid and he's riding a horse bareback and he's got nothing on except for shorts. No shoes, no socks, no shirt, of course, it's Nastasio. And he's just kicking ass on this horse. It's a real quick clip. Like he kind of makes the horse speed up from a dead stop and then stops the horse again. Dude, so badass. And he tells this story about how he used to ditch school. And then when school was getting out, he would ride his horse to school and then race the school buses. And like everyone would be like cheering him on. Yeah, Nastasio, or whatever. Dude, just badass from birth, right? Nasty, in my opinion, is like the realest dude out there still. He's in his 40s now, and he's like doing double backflips at like 7:30 in the morning by himself at some trails he built himself that are in a field out near like Bakersfield, California, and just sending it. Dude, like just the realest dude. That's a guy whose heart is like truly in BMX for life. Just a absolute legend. And I don't like to toss the word legend around, but dude, Nastasio is, there's never going to be another Corey Nastasio ever. Straight legend status, 100%. And now that I'm thinking about Nastasio, my favorite Nastasio story was from probably 2001. And I was out in California. I used to go out to California every winter to, shoot photos, film. The industry was out there. So I'd find myself out there every winter. I'd stay with Biz and Heath Pinter. And one night we go out to the Club Metro, which I believe was in Riverside. And everyone's there. It's like Nasty, White Snake, Stephen Murray, and then countless other Riverside guys, Southern California guys. And we're all having a good time. I know, so many people at this club. And I get pulled onto the dance floor by this girl named Jamie Lilly. And Jamie Lilly used to race for Free Agent back in the day. I don't know what class she was in, but she was a pretty fast racer. She had a lot of success. She pulls me onto the dance floor and we start dancing, cutting it up. And we're just having a laugh. We're making fun of all the other people on the dance floor that are taking the club super serious. So I'm on the dance floor and I start feeling this pulling at my shirt. And I turn around and it's Nasty. He's like, Doyle, we're going to go outside and fight these guys. Come on, man, let's go. And I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm Nasty. I don't want to fight anybody. Why would I fight anybody? And he gets distracted and then leaves me alone, goes to somebody else. And then a couple of minutes pass and I feel the same pull at my shirt. And it's Nastasio again. Doyle, come on, we got to fight these guys. Come on, let's go. He's pulling harder. And I say, all right, Nasty, I'm right behind you. And he runs toward the door. And like there's a bunch of people going outside that are either in the fight or going to watch the fight that's about to happen. And I took like 2 steps off the dance floor and I'm like, I'm not going outside. So I go back to the dance floor and I continue dancing with Jamie Lilly. And I think about 5 minutes had passed and I'm like, I wonder what's going on outside. And I noticed like some people starting to come back into the club. And I go outside and like everyone's kind of like sitting on the curb and people are trying to get themselves together and you can smell that everyone's been pepper sprayed or was it mace? I don't know. But we'll say pepper spray for the sake of the story. So Stephen Murray's like sitting on the ground trying to get himself together. My eyes, my fucking eyes. Oh, my eyes. He had gotten pepper sprayed in the face and he had LASIK eye surgery like 2 days prior. He just got pepper sprayed in the face. And I go over to Nasty and Nasty's trying to get himself together. I'm like, so did I miss the fight? And Nasty looks at me and he just starts laughing, just starts losing it. Like, Doyle shows up late to the fight. I love it. And that's kind of where the story ends. But then like 2 days later, we're at Nasty's house and we're like bullshitting and we're telling the story again. And he's telling everyone the same story that I just told you, but in his version of the story, for some reason, I come out of the club and I'm not wearing a shirt and I'm sweating. So that was like his version of the story was like a little bit different. So that story made it into Stephen Murray's book. And I'm wondering what their version of the story is like. Because they were actually outside and you know, they were getting ready to throw down. I don't know if any punches were actually thrown or if everyone got pepper sprayed beforehand. Not really sure. But if you have a chance to read that book, I think the story's in there. Because I told that story to Nasty and Nasty's like, yeah, that's in there, man. That's in there. Oh, man. So, yeah, shout out to Nasty. Shout out to Club Metro. Dude, you know who's a good dancer? And this might not even surprise you, but do you know who a dude that can cut a rug is? Mike Aitken. Mike Aitken can fucking dance. And again, that might not surprise you. You're like, of course, the dude's got the best style on a bike. It's no wonder he's probably that good at everything. You know, I always wonder, like those dudes that have just amazing style, would they like, if they played tennis, would they just have the best looking swing? Or if they played golf, would they just have the best swing? Or if they were swimmers, would they just have more style in the pool? I don't know. But Mike Aitken can dance. And this is how I know this. Because Aitken came out to Erie when I lived in Erie in 2001. He came out in the winter, which was crazy. Came out, and my two roommates, which were Mike Cesney and Chris Bennett, I'm really being a name dropper on this episode. My two roommates, they had girlfriends, and every evening they would go spend time with their girlfriends, and Aitken would look at me like, Doyle, what the fuck, let's go ride. And I'd be like, okay. So we would go out to Tim Shiver's barn, the electrical barn that you've probably seen in like countless Square One videos and things like that, and we would ride. At this barn, Aitken taught me how to do downside fast plants on walls. Pretty sick. So we're at Tim's barn, and I think either BJ Gritza or Justin Kendall was there, and they're like, hey, there's this party in Edinburgh if you guys want to come to this party tonight. And me and Aitken are like, yeah, we'll go to this party. So we go to this party that's in the basement of a frat house, and they're playing some really good music, and you know, the music just was hitting Aitken right, and he just starts dancing. And he's like dancing good. He was kind of goofy, but you could tell he knew what he was doing. He starts cutting it up in the basement of a frat house, and everyone was loving it. And like everyone pretty much started dancing after that. And these girls came up to us and they're like, oh my God, everyone here is so boring except for you guys. You have to come back tomorrow night. We're having another party. So we got invited back the next night, went to this party, cut it up again. And Aitken was like the hero because dude could dance. And I think the second night we brought Steve Cuesta and maybe Delfrano, maybe Napolitan was there too. I don't remember. I know Cuesta was there because Cuesta got up on a pole and did some weird shit. But if you know Cuesta, that's not surprising. Anyways, see, this is why you follow me, right? So you can hear the things about your favorite pros that you just didn't know about. There's your Mike Aitken story. Dude can dance. Shout out to Mikey. The most hardcore bike rider to ever live. And in fact, that's not really my quote. I'm quoting Heath Pinter, who Heath Pinter, if you don't know it, is like the best storyteller, and he's one of the smartest, most articulate people you could ever hope to meet. If you ever get a chance, sit down and talk to Heath and have him tell you a couple stories, because you'll lose your mind and you will laugh so hard. But one time I was in a van with Heath Pinter, and we were talking. I just gotten on Rockstar Energy Drink, and I was getting shit for it. I was people on social media were calling me a sellout and saying some weird shit about me, and I didn't like it, and I was offended by it. You know, I'm only human. You know, this is that remember back in the day on the Come Up, like when you could comment anonymously, and if you put something out, you could get like 50 comments that say that you're awesome, but then there's one comment that they say you're like fucking lame or something, and all you do is focus on that one comment. Remember that? I guess that's like a human thing. Regardless, people were calling me a sellout. Oh, fucking sellout, riding for Rockstar, corporate deals, blah, blah, blah. And I was bummed, and I told Heath about that. And Heath broke it down to me, and he's like, all those people that will call you a sellout, have they ever had to turn down a deal to ride for an energy drink company? Probably not. And he says, until that person can turn down a company like Rockstar, then they can't tell you shit. So fuck them. I was like, oh. Once again, Heath makes total sense. And then he says to me, he goes, that's why Mikey Aitken is the most hardcore bike rider of all time. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, Mike Aitken is the most hardcore bike rider of all time because of the deals that he turned down to stay loyal to the companies that he rode for. And I thought a lot about that. It's like, wow, yeah. Because Mikey had so many deals on the table at one point. I mean, I'm talking GT, Miraco, I think Specialized. Specialized, I'm not sure. I think he got offered to ride for Specialized. But he had all these like big money deals that he was just turning down because he wanted to stay with Fit. Or he left Vans to ride for Low Tech, which was the core BMX shoe brand. So that is why, and again, these are all like Heath's words that I'm just spilling onto you. But I always thought that was really interesting. I always thought about that. Like, you can only be as hardcore as your options will allow you to be. And before you call somebody, a sellout or whatever, you got to, were you ever offered a chance to do this or that? A lot of times, no. But hey, sometimes, I guess there are people out there though that have turned down big deals that they can talk shit because, they've been there, they've done that. Once again, I feel like I'm not making any sense. I'm just kind of spitballing here, just talking for your enjoyment. But maybe I should wrap it up with that. Hopefully I didn't embarrass Mikey too much. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Yet another solo performance here for my podcast. Hoping I can get to a guest as soon as quarantine lifts and we can all get together again. Also, stay tuned. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to stay tuned for this Ryan Barrett video part that I'm going to try and throw up real quick. Enjoy that, and then go wish him happy birthday or happy belated birthday if you're hearing this later. So, thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye-bye.